Well, now joining me is the Albanese government's newly sworn-in Environment Minister, Murray Watt. Thanks for joining us. Let me start by asking about your intentions in terms of what's been called the Nature Positive Bill and the setting up of a Commonwealth EPA. In some states, the EPA can give advice but doesn't make a final decision on projects. Tanya Plibersek wanted a final decision made by them. Are you going to change the Plibersek proposal so EPA doesn't get the final say?
Well, g'day, Andrew, and good to be with you. Obviously, it's very early days in my tenure in this role, and I'll be consulting widely about all of these issues. I think what we did see at the election was a strong endorsement from the Australian people for Labor's approach, which is to protect the environment and protect jobs. That's the way I'm going to be approaching this job. Obviously, we do need to protect our environment, not only because of the health and environmental benefits that provides, but there's a range of industries in Australia that rely on a healthy environment to be able to deliver the jobs and economic benefits that we need. In terms of the reforms, as I say, I've really just started beginning consultations on that, and you will have seen I'll be travelling to Perth this week to meet with representatives of the WA government, including Premier Cook, mining, environmental representatives, business representatives as well. I'm not locking myself in at this point to an exact model of an EPA, but I'll be very interested to hear the range of views that are being put forward.
But this is what WA wants, isn't it? I mean, if you're meeting miners, if you're meeting the state governments, you want a swag of seats there. Won't you be looking, aren't you at least looking at that prospect that perhaps the EPA might just provide advice, not make the decision?
Well, we did go to the election committing and recommitting, in fact, to having an independent EPA, and we need such a body with teeth to be able to assist in protecting our environment. But in terms of the details around the model of that, that is something that I'll be consulting on. I think it's a little premature for me to be making those kind of decisions before I've had an opportunity to meet with a range of interest groups on this. But I'm very hopeful, based on the early calls that I've made to representatives of governments, mining groups, business groups, environment groups. There's a lot of goodwill out there about the need to make changes to our environmental laws. If you go back to the review that Graham Samuel did for the former coalition government, he identified that our current environmental laws aren't working for the environment or the business community. The groups that I've been speaking with from across the spectrum agree with that. They agree that change needs to be made. Of course, there are some different views about what that looks like. But my job, of course, is now to get out there, meet with everyone who's got a view on this, and bring forward a package from the government that can make its way through the Senate.
Look, my ears pricked up when you indicated that basically your second week in the job, you're going to be meeting miners, mining companies. That's an unusual approach from an Environment Minister, isn't it?
I don't think so. I mean, whether it be Tanya Plibersek or other environment ministers, they've always engaged in wide-ranging consultations. I guess I have the benefit coming into this job of already having some strong existing networks in all of the different interest groups that want to be involved in this reform process due to the previous roles that I've had. I'm going to be open to all views in this role. Of course, I'll be listening to environment groups, and I'll be meeting with a number of them this week, having spoken to some of them on the phone. But I do want to be meeting with the mining community. I do want to be meeting with the business community because, as I say, my experience so far is that everyone across the spectrum recognises we need reform. They're committed to the task and they're committed to working with me to get that done.
Have you been put in here because you're a fixer and the Prime Minister thinks you might be a bit more reasonable and not come up with decisions like the Blaney coal mine and salmon farming?
I'll leave it to commentators like you, Andrew, to determine why I've been put in this role and come up with different descriptions. But I guess, I think my record does show that I'm someone who can bring different groups together and make decisive decisions and then get matters passed through the Senate. I did that in my agriculture role when it came to live sheep exports, which was a very controversial issue, but we got the job done there. I've done that when it comes to the CFMEU administration, getting difficult, contentious legislation through the Parliament, and that's the sort of approach I'll be taking here as well. As I say, I think that there's, the whole Australian community recognises we need to see reform, and what I see from the community is that they they want to see politicians, business groups, governments, environmental groups working together, coming up with common solutions rather than just pitting each other at each other all the time.
Sure. Is it fair to say that the Prime Minister overruling Ms Plibersek on some of these areas that I just mentioned, like salmon farming when she was Minister, contributed to your electoral success in Western Australia and Tasmania?
Well, I guess the seat results demonstrate that Australians pretty much in all states supported the agenda of the Albanese government. We are humbled by that. We're not going to get carried away with that. But clearly, if you look at the results in Tasmania in particular, with massive swings towards Labor, including in the seat of Braddon, that was a strong endorsement of the Albanese government's approach, which is that we can protect jobs and the environment. Of course, we want to make sure when it comes to salmon that environmental impacts are managed and are limited. But we also want to protect the jobs that are really important for those communities as well. We saw a similar approach in Western Australia. So as I say, I think that there is a strong endorsement of Labor's approach when it comes to managing the environment. And I think we saw in the election a real rejection from the Australian people of the extreme left and right of politics, which have said that you've got to have one or the other. You know, people didn't want to see the Greens blocking environmental reform and saying no to everything. Equally, they didn't support the Coalition's approach in saying that every single development should go through without any conditions. People want to see that middle ground where we do protect both the jobs and environment, and I think it's been demonstrated that only Labor can provide that.
I need to ask about the proposal to extend the North West Shelf gas project. You're planning to approve this, aren't you?
I haven't made any decision at this point in time, Andrew. It would be a little bit early for me to be doing that. I've certainly had some preliminary briefings from my department about this particular project and the approval that needs to be made. It is my intention to make that decision by May 31, which is the current deadline there. I recognise this is a decision that's been taking a long time between the Western Australian government in particular and the federal government. So I do want to make that decision within the current time frame. But I genuinely haven't reached a position on that, and I'll be expecting formal briefings from the department in coming days.
So you'll have been Minister all of about 2.5 weeks when you make a pretty massive decision.
Yeah, it will be a very significant decision, Andrew, and I recognise it's one, there are really strong views on all sides, and it won't be the final time that I'll need to make a decision which is contentious and that there are strong views. But what I can assure you viewers is that every decision I make will be in accordance with the law. I'll be looking at the evidence, I'll be looking at the science, bringing an independent mind to each of these decisions, and that's what I'll be doing with this one as well.
Do you have a recommendation from your department before you on this?
Not at this point in time, Andrew.
All right.
They're still finalising the paperwork for that, yeah.